No laptops. And I do think.
All right, we're starting. This public meeting. Welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We're always pleased when members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey State Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves the right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual personnel and confidential matters. We hope our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
As required under the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046 et sequentia, adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the Trenton Times and Municipal Clerk and the Princeton Packet on January 6, 2024. It was also distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. Board Policy 168, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this in-person meeting that this meeting is being recorded and also live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools, as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A38.8.1. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central administrative, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions. In the event that NJSA 18A38.8.1 is amended, the law shall take precedence over this bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Daphne Kendall,
Here.
Betsy Baglio,
Here.
Beth Barron,
Here.
Adam Bierman,
Here.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Here.
Mara Franceschi,
Here.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Here.
Susan Cantor,
Here.
Brian McDonald,
Present.
Robert Christopher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Can I get a motion for adoption of the minutes for March 18th, 2024? Mara, second. Debbie?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld, Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Can I get a motion for adoption of the minutes for April 17th? Brian, second. Susan?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Bolden. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to this meeting. We have a very busy meeting tonight, and I just wanted one note of housekeeping. We have a couple of things to approve. The superintendent has some comments, and then we'll have our long-term planning discussion. Following that, there will be a budget presentation and public comment on the budget only, and that's required by law. After that, we'll vote to adopt the budget, and then we're going to have our first public forum on any agenda item. I know some of you are here tonight to speak about things that are of importance to you. I don't want you to have to wait any longer than is necessary. So with that, we'll move on to the ratification of the PAA contract, which is the contract that the board has with our administrative union. We approved the MOA at our March meeting. Can I get a motion, please? Brian, second. Rob?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Our next item is the abolishment of job descriptions. And Dr. Foster, I didn't know if you were going to speak about it now or if you wanted to speak about it later.
Well, I was going to touch base about, oh yeah, I should put it on. So we're excited because some of the abolishment of the job descriptions make it a pleasure to then recommend 2 new positions to supervisors. So if you know and love Valerie Ulrich like we do, currently Valerie serves in the role of supervisor of preschool and special projects. And truly, she is so hard to replace that we are leveraging state preschool aid to make 2 new positions cost neutral. So you will see her job description abolished to create these new job descriptions. So the first job description is supervisor of MTSS and special projects. And the second is supervisor of early childhood. And both jobs were charging some salary to the preschool education aid that we are using. And as we grow our program, we will continue to receive additional assistance from the state and are expected to have oversight. So I know that the 2.
Yes. So, so first we have to do this. We have to vote on it.
So I'll stop there. And then,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So that's an action item. Can I get a motion, please? Susan, second. Brian, for the abolishment of the job descriptions, and those, hold on, just for the audience. Those job descriptions are the supervisor of technology, and these are effective July 1, supervisor of technology and innovation, systems engineer and webmaster, supervisor of preschool and special projects. And does anyone have any comment? No? Okay. Mr.
Well,
Bolden?
I'll just note that our preschool has grown
Yeah.
from 0 to 9 sections. How many children we have? So during Valerie's tenure, there was an enormous expansion, and we are getting funded by the state.
Oh, I know.
for all that.
And we're expanding it by 3 more this summer as well. Yes. So it's economy of scale. As we grow, so does our aid. And that's why we're able to make it as cost neutral as possible.
Just a general observation. I think this preschool, I think it's in a great direction. And I think hopefully with continuity and leadership, this will pay dividends in the long run, especially with disparity in scores.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bolden.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Baron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So now, Dr. Foster gave a preview. We're going to move on to the first appointment, which is Amy Nashko, who is on the agenda for board approval for supervisor of early childhood, beginning July 1. Did you want us, what would you like us to do?
Could I just say a few words? Just a few.
Yeah.
So we're thrilled. We know Amy. Amy currently, and she's been selected from a competitive field of candidates for the early childhood supervisor. She's a longtime advocate for young learners. And by the way, she has her doctorate. So Dr. Nasco has extensive experience working with preschool students and pre-service early childhood teachers at the university level. She served in a variety of roles, including preschool and kindergarten teacher in Lawrence Township, director of training and staff development with Tools of the Mind curriculum, assistant professor at Wilkes University, and adjunct professor at William Patterson. She's also served as the early childhood program coordinator at Rowan University, where she provided leadership in the creation of the early childhood program with the Department of Interdisciplinary and Inclusion Education, and collaborated with Grow New Jersey Kids, which is a New Jersey preschool quality rating agency, to design online and in-person preschool training. Most recently, she was invited to participate in the Department of Ed to serve on a 5-person committee to evaluate preschool curriculums for inclusion. She's won numerous awards. However, she is best known as our preschool instructional coach and interventional specialist. And we are thrilled to recommend her for appointment tonight.
Thank you. So Mr. Bolden, we're going to split these up. So can I get do we need a motion for 4A? Should we make it 4A?
Sure.
Yeah. So Dr. Foster and I did not have a chance to speak.
No, it's all good.
We're speaking now.
Absolutely.
And it's not that we don't speak all the time, but just on about this. Okay, can I get a motion for 4A, please? Debbie, second, Eleanor?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Baron.
Yeah.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So Dr. Nashko is here tonight. And Dr. Nashko, if you would like to come and say something. Welcome to the district.
Oh, again,
Welcome.
I'm here.
Welcome to being a supervisor.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you.
just,
What an
and you have a
introduction.
contract through
Thank you.
2028. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr.
Mhm.
Foster. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the support of the pre-K program. And as you said, it has grown substantially. I came on in 2020 as the pre-K instructional coach, and because of the size of it, it was only a part-time job, and it was what I was looking for at the time back then. And it has just blossomed. So next year it'll be 12 classrooms. And we are having our lottery this Friday, and we had the most that we have ever gotten to register for the lottery. So there's obvious need out there, and we are servicing a population that really is providing a great foundation for the Princeton Public Schools.
Can I
So
put you on the spot? How many openings are there
openings
for the pre-K for
the
20
lottery?
yeah.
I'm not gonna
No, okay.
don't hold me to numbers, but
Yeah.
I can kind of give ballpark.
Yeah.
We have, because everybody that gets a lottery spot as a 3-year-old rolls
Right,
in
right,
and
right, yeah.
has it as a 4-year-old.
Mhm.
So we have spots. There'll be 180 spots open, but that's not all lottery spots because the 3-year-olds
Right.
would roll to the 4-year-old program. I believe we have somewhere around 40 some slots for 4-year-olds
Okay.
and 50 some slots, 55 or so
Okay,
slots
approximate-ish.
for,
Yeah.
for 3-year-olds.
Do you know how many people registered for the lottery?
I think it was over 200
Okay.
registration. So we're going to have a few that we're going to not be making.
Yeah.
Not be
But-
making this lot. They get on the wait list. We run everybody through the lottery, and there'll be a wait list if there's changes over the summer or movement during the school years.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Then could I get a motion for 4B? Mara, second, Beth. And that is the appointment of Lauren Samara, and I know she's in the district, to be the supervisor of MTSS and special projects. Yes, please.
So I have to talk about Lauren as well. She's beloved as well. Lauren has served in various roles throughout her 18-year tenure in Princeton Public Schools, starting with our pre-K disabilities class, then acting as an elementary special education teacher, learning disabled teacher consultant, interventionist, elementary instructional coach, and back to interventionist again. She has been a consistent advocate for improving student learning, decreasing disproportionality, and collaborating with staff to innovate instruction. She will be taking on the supervisor of MTSS and special projects, which means that she will be shifting to a pre-K to 12 role and leveraging data to make informed decisions about curriculum, instruction, and tiered programs that support all learners. A self-subscribed data nerd, she has already been involved with some of this work at the elementary level and has shown great progress with student growth. We are truly excited to bring her passion and expertise to the secondary level as well. Thank you, Lauren.
Dr. Foster, for us lay people, I know my colleague Betsy thought there should be a different name for the job just so the rest of us could understand it. And it has something to do with data analysis, right? So that's a big part of this job. Is that right?
That is a big part of this job. I mean, honestly, it's sort of like
yes,
any
and
jobs.
It's,
Yeah, yes, and.
So I think this role is also the district testing coordinator. So it's looking at assessment and not just our standardized testing data, but internal benchmarks and growth as well. This role will be sitting at every INRS table across the district. So when we have monthly meetings about students who might be struggling and need support with behavior, or academics, or social emotional support, actually utilizing data to make informed decisions and then advocate for programming. So whether it be academic support or reading intervention or things that supported the counselor, and really creating systems. And so that we're not we're providing kids with services, but we're not over-identifying students for special education who don't need to be there. And also making sure that we're not disproportionate. And right now, that is the role that Lauren is currently in. She's an interventionist because we are disproportionate in our special ed population. And she got us out of disproportionality a few years ago, and then the role went away with grant money. And guess what? We're back. So this role is obviously needed, and this role will help provide oversight of this work. And I think when people think about tiered supports, they only think about students who might need a little bit more, but it also is about enrichment and growth. So when we think about our gifted learners, our special education learners, our multilingual learners, it's systems and supports for everyone. And so it's just having that reminder across. And sometimes it's harder at the secondary level, as you guys know, because you have 9 different teachers and, things like that. And so helping teachers say, how can we help you? How can we help you work with this data to inform instruction? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because sometimes we have a lot of initials and acronyms, and it doesn't really give justice to what the job, how important this job is.
Yes. My husband says we speak a different language in education. There's a lot of acronyms. Yes.
Yes, it is true. Okay, so with that, Mr. Bolden.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And I understand that Lauren is here today. Nice to see you.
Not gonna cry.
Aw.
I do want to share a few words. Thank you all so much for having me. Thank you to our board. Thank you, Dr. Tu, Dr. Foster, everyone who was involved on the interview committee for your confidence in me. This truly means everything to me. PPS is home for me. I started here 19 years ago as a student teacher with the amazing Jasmine Saracen, and I cannot forget to thank, with deepest gratitude, the one and only Dr. Ginsburg, who offered me my very first teaching job in special education in his building, and that just changed everything for me. So as Dr. Foster shared, since then, I've been so fortunate to have served in a variety of roles, from Riverside Child Study Team. Thank you, Mickey Crisipulli. To, I know, all my shout outs. I just love everyone here so much. Like, I have roots here. To instructional coach and interventionist. So each experience helping to build my professional capacity, helping me to grow my relationships across the district. So I'm truly grateful for all of those opportunities, as they've allowed me to fully realize and act on my passion, supporting our incredible students and staff. So I do believe we are at a very critical point in time in education, both in our district and beyond, where needs are more diverse than ever. So ensuring that equitable intervention systems are in place for all of our learners to make sure that all of our learners are thriving is just of the utmost importance. So my goal in this role is to make sure that our intervention in our district is accessible, cohesive, and sustainable across all grade levels. I'm looking forward to partnering with our teachers and our administrators district-wide to make sure I bring this goal to fruition. So thank you again, everyone, for this opportunity. I could not be more proud or excited to join our phenomenal leadership team, and this just truly means the world to me. Thank you.
So Lauren, just 2 things. I also tell myself not to cry before the meetings, and it's we're lucky to have you in this position. So Dr. Foster, at the last meeting we did say some very nice words about Val Ulrich, who, as Beth mentioned, grew this preschool program from 0 to 180 plus. And so I'm just trying to understand that we know Val was great. And so it's going to take 2 people to do her job.
Yes.
What is the effect on the budget?
So it is cost neutral because, again, we are receiving money from the PEA, which is the preschool education aid. And so I think this is really good news that we are leveraging a current position, changing it, and addressing some of the needs of our youngest learners as they grow through the system. And we're so excited, too, I think, for that MTSS to go all the way up through the high school, because because right now we don't have that support. But it is budget neutral as we get support funds from the PEA.
Okay, well, thank you.
Just say one thing. Congratulations to our newest supervisors. And I just want to echo their thanks, Dr. Foster and Dr. Tu. You've articulated by creating these two positions, our focus on data is something the board's been really interested in for many years. And also in our strategic plan, the pre-K to third grade, we know it's a critical time for students. So by creating these positions, you're really committing to this for our students. And I just want to thank you for that. So thank you all for doing the work. And I'm thrilled that there are people within our district who are now these supervisors.
Thank you. And one final thing, in the president's report tonight, we have a PMS PALS presentation. So if you would all please come up. That is the Princeton Middle School Peer Assisted Living, Social Inclusion for All. Is there going to be a PowerPoint? Yes, there is. Okay. Yeah. So, and if you could all, so this is something that we've implemented this year. We wanted to return the focus to students this year. And so every board meeting, we have something that highlights great things that our students are doing. If you could please, I'll turn it over to you. Please let us know your name. You don't have to give us your last name, and also what grade you're in. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
All right, excellent. We can start with introductions.
Hello, my name is Ren Morgan Byron, and I am in the 7th grade.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name is Anya Shirsagar, and I'm in 7th grade.
My name is Anna Jameson, and I'm in 8th grade.
And I'm Beth Murrin. I'm the supervisor of special education for grades 6 through 8. I'm going to allow my colleague here to introduce himself.
And I am Greg Kohler. I'm a special education teacher at the middle school.
So we are so excited to be here tonight to share with you a little bit of work that we've been doing at PMS this year. It started in the fall with an idea. And like all great things, you need many people to bring an idea to life. And so when I spoke with Mr. Kohler, who is our autism teacher, as well as Miss Polly Jo Cassis, who is our multiple disabilities teacher at the middle school, and Miss Jennifer Noto, who is one of our speech therapists at the middle school, we were discussing a need for how do we support our students who are in some of our highly specialized programs to engage more deeply and meaningfully in our community and establish connections outside of their specialized classrooms. And so, we all kind of put our heads together. We thought of some activities that already occur and how could we bring this to life. So truly, the purpose behind PALS, which is peer assisted learning, actually, is to be buddies and mentors with one another and to create meaningful friendships for students that are in both our multiple disabilities program as well as our autism program. These phenomenal students here were students that were given an opportunity. School counselors sent out our mission and what we envisioned for our club, and we sought students who wanted to be part of that. And these are 4 of those students who have been phenomenal in our work this year. And so we started with a Disability Awareness Day, where those staff members and I planned a way to talk to them about developmental disabilities and what that might mean for their peer and how they could support their peer and develop friendship with them. And so, students attended. We talked a lot about that. And then we just jumped right into the fun, which is truly what the club has been all about. I don't know, Matt, if you want to roll one. I'm probably on the next slide now. Yeah, one more, actually. So we started in December and we did a kickoff event in the evening, and our staff was really supportive. We also had a number of instructional aides who were willing to stay and support this because they also see the value and have been really meaningful in our work together. That night, we did a lot of getting to know you activities. We did make your own dinner, decorating cookies, playing games. And then because everyone was so exhausted, we let them vote on a movie to finish out the night. So it was a long school day, but a lot of fun. From there, we've had activities each month month, students have been able to sign up for what works for them, because we know some students need our pause time for other reasons, but other students were able to join Ms. Cassis and Mr. Kohler's class. They did a lot of gameplay and just, again, getting to know each other, engaging with each other under teacher direction. The second place that we've really been able to ask these guys to go into and to be part of is our after school program, which has traditionally been a club-based program for our students with multiple disabilities and autism to have teacher and aide support to go into PMS clubs and activities. What we were finding is students are there, but it's still hard to really engage and create friendships. So what we were able to do is pair some of our peer buddies, and they go to clubs with them, or they may do activities back if there's not a PMS club running that day. But they've been able to attend. I know they've gone to art club, game club. They've gone to watch after school sporting events of, their peers and around the community. They've done some crafts, they've played games, explored interests that students have. And so that, really has been a really successful start. We're excited about how we can grow this and, look forward to, what more we can do with it. But I can't say enough about the students that have been part of the club. They are phenomenal people, and they are showing kindness, compassion, and just this great friendship to students that they may not ever otherwise been able to spend time with and get to know in our school community. And truly their impact on the school community has been phenomenal. And we hope we can keep growing that, inclusive mindset and culture at PMS. Yeah. And these are just a few pictures. I know a little bit maybe hard to see from far back, but of some of the activities that students have engaged in at some of our events so far this year. So, yeah. So thank you so much for having us.
So thank you. It's really important what you're doing. And not only do the children that you're working with benefit, but you also benefit because you're learning, as Ms. Murren said, compassion and empathy. And, there's no test for that, but it's really, really important. And, sometimes adults should look to the kids, to the students to see what we should be doing. And I hope, we can all emulate you more. So thank you for coming. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to say, but just keep up the good work.
We didn't prep any remarks.
No. Can I ask a question? Can I
I
ask the students a question? Do you have any ideas for another activity you might do in the future with this club?
Ice
Or-
cream.
Yeah,
Did you do ice cream already?
that's a good
Ice cream.
springtime activity. Yeah.
They're telling me they like the way it is.
Great.
I will say the staff has thought a little bit about, are there ways that we can incorporate this into some classes, like exploratory programs or PE classes that students are taking alongside of their peers? And so that's in our minds of how can we work that into scheduling next year. So, so we definitely have some plans, and I know that these guys will be on board for it.
And just so you know, when you get to the high school, Dr. Tu is going to share with you, we have an integrated program which pairs students with children.
Same kind of program, just like
Mhm.
you're talking about with the EPs, but we call it integrated dance or integrated theater. There's a couple of different classes. So you kind of apply to be a part of it because it is a leadership program, just like what you're doing. And I think you guys have already the requisite skills that you would need to join. So I hope when you think about high school electives that's starting next year, when you get up to the high school, talking to your counselor about that. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Okay.
And Dr. Tu is signing homework passes. So just see her on the way out, please. Okay. And with that, we're going to move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Good evening again. Many of you are in this room or watching the live stream may be familiar with this phrase. Every student will be known, connected, engaged, and supported, and will encounter fair, affirming schooling experience at every stage. This is one of our most important goals of our district, and it is part of our strategic plan. It is a general, all-encompassing statement, but it applies to each and every one of our students. I love this goal. I support it by guiding our administrators and teachers, by listening to our students, staff, parents, community members, and by the way in which we all lead by example. We work every day to make sure that every student experiences fair, affirming schooling experiences. But tonight, I want to specifically address the issue of anti-Semitism. For the past several months, we've had ongoing discussions about anti-Semitism. In public and private meetings with our district leadership, we've acknowledged the need to reinforce the tenet that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in our district. In the most general sense, respect for one group translates into respect for all groups. When we exercise our compassion and sense of justice, we can acknowledge that bias, prejudice, and hate against any one group fails all of us, both as individuals and as a part of a larger community. Let me start by thanking all the people who have reached out to the Board of Education and District to ask us to consider adopting the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism for our community. In the past few months, we've spent a great deal of time listening to many parents, families, meeting with local rabbis, local and state organizations, legal counsel, internal staff, and others. We've received many outstanding resources to guide us. It's not easy work, but we have an ethical, legal, and moral obligation to protect all of our students from anti-Semitism, harassment, and hateful conduct. And I appreciate the patience and grace you've given us as we work to articulate a definition. As we were asked to define anti-Semitism, we became increasingly aware of the intricacy and nuances of this mission. I personally worried that in the arena of subtle complexities, we would become paralyzed. In some communities, this discussion has crossed the boundary from a straightforward definition into a contentious political discussion. We worry, too, that if we recognize one group, others will feel left out or slighted. Yet we have singled out this issue tonight because of our current conversations and the alarming statistics that show the rapid rise of anti-Semitism in our country and across the world. This past year, the Anti-Defamation League recorded the highest number of anti-Semitic incidents across the United States since it began tracking in 1979, with the most dramatic increase happening after the October 7th terrorist attack on Israel. According to a Pew Research Center study, 3/4 of American Jews think there is more anti-Semitism in the United States today than there was 5 years ago. Moreover, just over half say that as a Jewish person in the United States, they personally feel less safe than they did 5 years ago. I can say without hesitation that Princeton Public Schools rejects anti-Semitism. If we are to advocate for the safety of our students, families, and communities, we cannot be silent. And therefore, tonight, we are publicly committing to taking a stand against anti-Semitism. This commitment can be our first step and serve as the tangible reminder that we need in these difficult times. What other things might make a difference? We will utilize the resources we've received from the ADL and American Jewish Committee to proactively educate our students, staff, and administrators about anti-Semitism. This includes reviewing our curriculum and professional development opportunities. Make sure we're vigilant and actively address issues that arise as we prioritize student safety. Use our prohibitions against harassment, intimidation, and bullying, HIB, to protect the rights of our students. Expand and supplement our vigilance, which when incidents occur and are not reported as HIB. Continue to review our policies around students and social media to create clear boundaries. Most importantly, uphold the values of our community and make our schools safe for our students. Our goal is to call attention to this issue and foster awareness and conversation among our students, staff, and our community. Therefore, we've chosen to work within the context of a wealth of resources to develop guidelines that will help us in our efforts to combat anti-Semitism. As we cultivate awareness around anti-Semitism, we will be alert to anti-Semitism in all of its forms, including a certain perception expressed as hatred towards Jews, prejudice or stereotypical views about Jews, rhetoric, and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism directed towards Jewish individuals and or their property. Spoken or physical manifestations of hatred directed at Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Words, gestures, or actions depicting hatred or contempt for Jews, the Jewish community, or Jewish institutions. In the book Soul Force, the authors talk about understanding the importance of living intention. And we always think about living with intention, a notion that acknowledges that much of our life we are in the present moment. But the authors also say we must live in tension. Purposeful living recognizes that we need to commit to sit in tension as the difficult conversations begin. We need to practice listening to various stakeholders. The ultimate goal is to hear each other with an open and compassionate heart. It is important to stay at the table, even when things are difficult and challenging. I'd like to close with deep gratitude to all who contributed to our conversations on anti-Semitism. We are unable to solve geopolitical issues, but we will commit to ensuring all students feel safe and welcome in our schools. Again, our strategic goal in our district, we will continue to strive to meet our goal that each and every student will be known, connected, engaged, and supported, and will encounter fair, affirming schooling experience at every stage. This is ongoing work, and we are in it for the long haul. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. I know that you have I'm grateful for the time and thought that you've put into this. I know reading that statement and weighing all the issues wasn't easy, but I'm grateful. And again, we're very lucky to have you as the leader of our district. Thank you.
I do want to thank you also for spending the time and listening to everybody. I'm very excited about the education of the students, staff, and administrators. And I'm wondering if maybe in, a couple months we can kind of look back and, see what the climate is of all this and where we are. The other thing is I was curious where this will all sit. Does it fall under the policy? Like if you were looking for it, and especially, because it's covering so much and so that it gets the attention it needs. Yeah, I don't know if you have an answer on that yet.
No, and I'm so glad you asked that question. I don't have a solid answer, but one of the things I know that we've jump-started the equity committee as well, and certainly then we can address all forms of, standing against all forms of hate speech. And certainly that could sit there, and that's where the education and professional development discussions can be. And then we also do need to look at our policies. So we're looking at, our social media policies, how we interact with each other. Also some of the curricular pieces when we adopt curriculum, we want to make sure that those pieces represent who we are.
Thank you.
Adam?
I have a different take on this. So I think it's important to consider anti-Semitism. And I understand that there's a certain perception of Jews, and some things can be expressed as a hatred towards Jews. But it's pretty hard to it's a lot of nuance here. And I'll vote for this, but this is my main issue with this.
Yeah.
I
We're
think
not
it's
voting.
We're not voting.
Oh, we're not voting.
No, but go ahead.
Excuse me. While addressing anti-Semitism is important, I think the focus on adopting this definition appears to be part of a broader trend of emphasizing what I see as identity politics and equity initiatives that take away a lot of time from, I think, concrete issues that directly affect students. Like Martin Luther King was a great man. I even wrote an editorial praising him. It got published in some local newspapers. But naming streets after MLK or discussing all this, it doesn't change test scores. It didn't change them in Trenton. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. I just think it takes too much time away from more important, substantial educational initiatives that directly affect students. And let's think about this. God forbid, and this might come up because you say we're not solving geopolitical problems. What if China invades Taiwan? Are we going to be discussing that? Are we going to make it a foreign policy? We're going to go into anti-Chinese? I mean, again, I think it's a rabbit hole.
Thank you, Susan.
I have a very different take on what the work you're doing. One, I want to thank you because I know it's been a very difficult few months talking to people. It's a very emotional issue for many in our community. And I've already seen and heard from parents that the work is hitting the classrooms. And that was like very impressive to hear. So this is something that people in our community have talked about well before October 7th for years, looking at the curriculum. You've named 5 places where I think we can do better. So in our plans as we go forward to each of those 5 areas to really hear what the work is, what the deliverables are, to hear that commitment, because I think that's important for our students to know that this work is ongoing, not just the words that we are against anti-Semitism, but each of those 5 areas that you named where I think we can do better, that we actually do the work. But I know in talking to you, you've been starting that process, and I thank you for that.
And I'll just say, I do appreciate the thought and time that has gone into this from the administration and my colleagues. And I realize there are many people in the community with very strong views on this. And that's our role, is to hear that and listen and try to come up with something that actually impacts our children and how we're teaching and teaching and learning. And so as chair of the policy committee, we welcome any work or anything that comes brought to us that is a follow-up and helps implement this in a better way. Thank you.
And I'll just say thanks for keeping students at the forefront of your work. We really appreciate all that you're doing for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. And then do have one other piece, which is okay. We have 2 things.
Oh yeah, I have kind of important things. Exactly.
I
know.
appreciate your efforts to move it along.
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to move it on.
Okay.
So I do want to make another statement. Then we have a fabulous presentation that, and really excited about our path forward for the district. But first, I know I want to thank all of the parents. We've received approximately 20 emails, I think, from parents of Community Park who were concerned about the current art teacher and the role there. And we appreciate hearing first how valued our staff members are and what a positive impact they make on the community. So I want to make sure that everyone understands that we are not reducing any services, that includes art for students at Community Park. Based upon the current enrollment and number of class sections next year, Community Park will need a 0.6 art position. The current teacher will have a full-time tenure track job and will teach art at the high school. And CP students will continue to have the same amount of art instruction as every other elementary student. We will be posting for a new 0.6 tenure track benefits eligible art teacher. And as we serve as stewards of the community, we continue to maximize our personnel resources in a variety of areas across the district, including art, PE, special ed, and other content areas. These changes will allow us to apply savings to other areas of need. So I just want to say that. So thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Foster. I appreciate it because there's been some misinformation. I just want to, so with the other areas that you mentioned, PE, special education, there's no reduction in services to children. Is that right?
No reduction to services, really just, maximizing personnel, capitalizing on the members that we have, the staff members that we have.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. And then
Now. This is the
yes.
big drum roll. So I do want to thank everyone. I know we put the long-term planning presentation on hold for a month as we continue to do our research. I'm really excited and proud. I want to again thank the long-term planning committee and certainly Matt. George and Dan, were phenomenal. And then you'll see Mike Zuba and Pat, his partner, who did the demographics. Kim serving kind of as the instructional leader and guide in all of this. And also all of the building principals and staff members, because they were intimately involved in not only contributing to what each building needs. Oh, that is really great. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Front and center. But I want to say also, George and his team listened as building leaders shared some recommendations for changes, because based on, where they live these buildings and they know them so well. And we went back to the drawing board, or I should say George went back to the drawing board and did some redesign for some of the schematics based on the recommendations. So it was truly a collaborative effort across the board. And I think this is always the challenge, are we getting it right? That is always the big question. It reminds me of sort of the Goldilocks, is it too big, too small? We think that this plan is just right. And you will see with the current enrollment and projections, we feel that each space is providing optimal learning environment for all of our students with some room to grow. So with that, I will move and turn it over to Mike.
Thank you so much. Matt, can you guys hear me? Oh, I'll talk softer. Oh.
You guys can hear in the back? All right, we're good, Mike. Oops, I lost you. Oh, no.
No, I'm still here. Yeah. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's exciting to be here. I'm just presenting tonight just an executive summary of our enrollment projection update as part of the long-term facility plan. Whenever we get into an enrollment projection, and I've been doing projections with Princeton since 2019, we always evaluate our last projection to see how the model did, make some adjustments to it. Overall, our elementary enrollment to K-5 was tracking pretty well. We did see overall less in migration, especially in the first grade. We did have a disconnect in the high school, and one of the changes we made to our modeling was that we went back and gathered Cranberry enrollment all the way back into elementary school, and we're able to do an abridged cohort survival. So now we're projecting enrollment into Cranberry students as they matriculate through all the grade levels and feeding into high school at 9th grade. That was really one of the drivers for our disconnect at the 9th grade level. But overall, we feel good about where the enrollment projections are, especially as part of this latest update. Just to touch on kind of the methodology that we use, it's similar to New Jersey DOE. We use a cohort survival methodology. With that, we also make some modifications to it. So embedded into cohort survival are things like housing development, demographics, economic changes, housing starts and housing turnover, where we have areas where the projections aren't capturing what's likely to occur in the future is where we begin making adjustments. So part of this update, which was a little bit different, we went ahead and developed a Princeton-specific housing multiplier. In the past, we've used various multipliers from Rutgers and others as well, and Bob Powell through Nassau Capital Partners, and compared those to what was actually occurring. And as we really got into the work, we decided really the best approach for Princeton and the best approach going forward was to have a Princeton-specific multiplier. So we sampled students based on the October 15th enrollment from Avalon, Princeton, Merrick, Stanworth, as well as Copperwood, and developed not only a per unit, but also a per bedroom for students that are occurring in those newly developed units. And then we're able to apply that to the new units that are coming online in the foreseeable future. One of the changes that we've made to this projection update was really kind of limiting our new development to those that are imminent. So, we hear a lot about this is proposed, this is talked about. So these are really projects that are approved or are currently under construction that we're adding, and we're also deducting and accounting for the existing housing development and the housing baseline. Over the last 5 years, there's been about 67 units annually, with a split of about 44 multifamily and 22 townhome and single family. So those get captured within the baseline. So what we're doing now is we're only doing student generation from units that are above and beyond that historic baseline growth. So as we look ahead, similar to what we've been doing for a number of years, we're projecting 3 different models, our high, medium, and low. As with the enrollment projections, you could see in that high, medium, and low model, we have really tight banding within the first 5 years. These are driven by students that are in the seats, known births, and housing that's relying less upon assumptions and really capturing what's in that third round of fair share housing settlement. What we're picking up then in the last 5 years is some of that future housing that we don't really know about yet, but we know is likely going to occur. But it does not capture things like the 4th round of the fair share housing. So within that first 5 years, we range from 3,930 students to 4,120 students, with the medium model right at 4,030 students. As we project out, the high model assumes a little higher level of immigration. So we're seeing that grow to 4,286, whereas the medium model grows a little bit more modestly to 4,090. And then the low model itself is a little bit more pessimistic. We don't see that as a likely model going forward. And that shows just some slight growth there down to just under 3,900 students. But all 3 models are above the total enrollments of where they're at today and where they've been at over the last several years. So projecting going forward, and I know I'll kind of focus on the elementary. So in our stacked bar chart, we have it disaggregated by your grade groupings. So as we sort of track the enrollment across the next decade, we could see that the elementary schools in the first 5 years are projected to grow about 7.5%. Middle school was 12%, and the high school at just over 11%. We do see that peak for the elementary schools shown in teal here at about 1,430 students, 1,420 students, and that's pretty well sustained over that last half of our projection horizon. And I'll just say again that that does not include any housing that we don't know about, as well as any housing that could come from the 4th round. Shown in the green color is the middle school enrollment. That enrollment is projected to grow to just under 890 students, with really the last 5 years of enrollment really between 870 and 880 students. And then at the high school, we're projecting some more rapid growth there overall, but really kind of reaching that peak, as we'll call it, in 2029-30 at 1,740 students, and then really sustaining that level of enrollment for the last 5 years of our projection horizon, really around 1,740 or 1,720 students. I know one of the questions that we had throughout, and this is just a snippet from the larger report, is really kind of understanding the difference between what students coming from the baseline growth and students coming from the student multipliers. So this is just a little chart that we use to be able to disaggregate those two, with the baseline growth shown in green, and then the students generated from the Princeton specific multipliers that we're adding, shown in the rose color up top. What I will say is that within this baseline growth, remember that there's about 70 units being added annually. So only where we're adding units that are being developed and being occupied that are above and beyond that 70 annually is where we're seeing them being added in that rose color, that red color up top. But by and large, it's really 2 parts of that equation. It's that baseline as well as the new housing is causing that growth, where we're seeing that peak of about 4,090 students for the latter half of our projection horizon. And last but not least, I'll kind of leave off on here is just as where we're into that grade level specific district-wide projections. And this is the kind of information that we've been working with George and Dan, especially at the elementary level and the middle school level, of feeding that information into those plans and those concepts that they're using to be able to generate the space planning as part of the long-term plan. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Matt if there's any questions or any comments from the board.
Mike, can you hear us when we talk?
I can hear you loud and clear, Matt.
Great. Anyone have any questions on the board? Comments?
I thought the pre-K was bigger, and especially later on. No, 61.
The static.
Okay, all right.
That Bronco was asking about.
Sorry.
Pre-K, that's in district buildings as opposed to the outsourced PEA classes that we were talking about earlier.
Okay, okay. That makes perfect sense now. Thank you.
I don't think it can be answered. My comments, demographics and then student teacher ratio, and what are we looking at? I mean, what's acceptable? What do we want? What is the community looking at? Are we going to build new buildings that maybe we do need? Will they be empty in 25 years? No one can predict. I guess, but going back, what's the student ratio we want?
So tonight, the presentation is focused with our professionals on the plant buildings, and we can discuss that at a later date. But it's been determined in the planning that this is the building that's necessary for us. It's not even preferred ratios. It's what's required. We're required to have a certain amount of square footage per student. So tonight we're just going to focus on what the proposal is, and we will have those discussions later.
Oh, thank you.
I have a quick question on like the growth rate. I think I saw a graph previously on the slideshow that showed PPS's like student population increasing pretty dramatically over the past few years. For your projections in the future, did you foresee that growth rate slowing down and the overall population of students decreasing?
Did you catch that, Mike?
I caught some of it. Some of it was a little bit choppy. I think the question was around the overall growth rate and if it's going to increase or decrease for the student enrollment as part of our projections.
Yes.
Correct. Is that correct? Yeah, so what we look at in the last year, we saw less immigration. So that's kind of like my term for growth rate. And it's really kind of tied to what we call the housing churn. So when we look at growth rate, we take more than 1 year sample because we're trying to project for more than 1 year. So we've actually been using several years of historic enrollment in those growth rates with being careful on how we handle that first year of the pandemic. And we want to be able to capture some of the historic growth pre-pandemic as well as what's been occurring after, blend those together and project that out forward as that growth rate. Because we know just following demographics my whole career, there's ebbs and flows. So 1 year may grow at our growth rate that we're projecting and another year may be slightly below that. Another 1 year may be slightly above that. But at the end of a 5-year window, you're going to be at that enrollment, but you may have different cohorts and different years where there's localized factors that will cause a projection to be a little bit higher, a little bit low.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification.
You're welcome.
I'll ask a question. I kind of know the answer, but just to clarify for the public, the Princeton multiplier, can you speak to that? Like, because I think that's, in this presentation, as opposed to past presentations, what's different, which is you really looked at the data within Princeton and within the new developments that have come in the last few years to use it for our projections forward. So just speak a little about the work you did around that, because I think that was concerning for the public in the past, that some of the models seemed very high and some of the models seemed very low, and the work around this, what we call the Princeton multiplier.
Yeah, I'm happy to comment on that. It's something that we've been doing in other client communities for a number of years. There's different sources of multipliers, and they're always at a scale that's much larger than any given community that we work in. So when we have good representative projects and we have good data behind it, so when you have a history of projects that are recently built and there's going to be projects coming online, development projects that are very similar in scope and scale, it's always great to be able to look at your own enrollment within those, see what the student generation is. And we've been looking at it from both a unit basis as well as a per bedroom basis. And what we found when we made those comparisons, just looking at Rutgers, which is typically a developer's multiplier, and Bob Powell's, was that the actual enrollment came in somewhere in between, right? When we took those multipliers and we looked at Avalon, Princeton, as well as Merritt, Stanworth, and Copperwood. So when we started looking into that, we started then this comping process. And I think, over time and as you get more enrollment and developments begin to mature and you have other samples there, that Princeton specific multiplier is going to be much tighter and it's going to become a much more valuable tool. Right now, we're just doing a per bedroom basis. But when you have a larger number of N or a larger sample, you could then be able to look at the individual units themselves and be able to have a little bit more specific of a multiplier. But I think it's definitely going to really kind of tighten up the number and give a more realistic view of the students that are likely going to be coming out of an individual development.
All right, thank you. I think that was good for the public to understand. I appreciate it.
And can we just speak again, Mike, so the public understands, and I think the committee has learned this over the time working with you, that your numbers are going to have to be submitted to the Department of Education. So we submit plans and we submit demographics, and we are required to submit projects that are, again, as you mentioned, approved and known. So there's lots of projects and different projects that get brought up in the town that kind of come and say they're going to start the planning process, but you're actually only able to include in these numbers the projects that are actually formally have gone through the process and are approved. And that ties into the way that we present data to the Department of Education. So it's not that we have the option of necessarily throwing in things that we think will be happening or, kind of making our own judgment on that. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure, I'm happy to. Yeah, so with the Department of Education process, they use the term developments that are imminent. So things that aren't just conversations or speculative in nature. These are projects that are approved, construction will be imminent or are under construction. And it kind of ties that window back together. So when we think about it as planners and we think about it as demographers, we're trying to capture sort of that long range vision and the kind of space we're going to need. But I understand the DOE standpoint in saying that, well, if a speculative development doesn't come to fruition, why are we going to provide and build space for that if it's not definitely going to happen? So what we did is we tailored our projections to match up with that DOE process of what they're expecting, and that then feeds in data that aligns with the types of spaces that are being used, the space needs, and really aligns the Princeton process with the DOE process from a projection standpoint, as well as the LRFP capacity standpoint that Dan and George will talk about. But I think to keep in the back of our minds is very important. It may not be in the projections, but we want to be cognizant of where other development is occurring and what's happening. Because, with this plan, we're projecting out students that are with greater certainty going to arrive as part of development, and we're having projections that are a little bit tighter. But also, you live in your local community, you know what's going on around. I think it becomes the point of saying that, in a number of years from now, we're going to reassess where other development is occurring. Is it above that 5 to 10 year baseline that we're projecting now? Do some adjustments need to be made, or is our plan sufficient? That gets back to sort of the philosophy of planning being in a continuous process. So, Beth is right. We're only projecting what is likely and imminent going to occur, but we know that there could also be some changes. So we just want to be cognizant of that, and we want to look at several windows as we're talking about space planning going forward.
Thank you, Mike. That's helpful. And I, again, will bring back to Dr. Foster's point that we are proposing some plans that are just right in the sense that they actually do allow for a little extra, because we all we live in this community. We see what's happening. So we're trying to strike the right balance. Thank you for that. I don't know if there's any more questions, or perhaps we do have the projects yet to get through. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to try to keep you on the line and have George start his presentation. We'll see how that works. If not, I'm going to disconnect you from the Zoom, and I know you can catch the live stream at home. Let's see how this works real quick. Nothing like, working on the fly. Here we go. All right, introducing George Duthie from Freytag V's Hopkins in Duthie. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me again. Can everyone hear okay? Great. Okay, so tonight we're just going to recap and talk a little bit about some updates, tweaks to the plans that have been made since the last time we were together. Some of you may have seen much of this information before, but let me just tell you what we're going to talk about this evening. quickly in our agenda here. And Matt, thank you. Potential projects, process, and overview. And then we're going to talk about what are those projects entail. We're going to talk about the high school projects, which we've spoken about before, all of these, Princeton Middle School, Community Park, Little Brook, as well as updates on some of the estimated project costs, the estimated preliminary tax impact, and then we're going to talk about next steps and schedule. So just moving on a little bit about the process. And you've heard a lot about collaboration, and you've heard a lot about due diligence. And that's truly what it was. The capacity study and the demographics that Mike just referred to, been completed, been tweaked over time, program needs throughout the district, discussion with staff, looking at infrastructure, input from numerous stakeholders, school visits and refinements based upon, again, input from building staff and other folks, multiple meetings with district administration, Board of Education, feedback from interested entities, and refinements as we went along, okay? Multiple public presentations at Board of Education meetings and other venues as well. Refinements completed also based upon feedback from members of the public, of course. Additional meetings that were needed to further refine and incorporate the plans. And of course, we've also met with the folks from the town of Princeton. All right. So a long due diligence and collaborative process has gotten us to where we are today. So where are we? Additions and renovations to Princeton Middle School, Community Park Elementary School, Little Brook Elementary School, Princeton High School, renovations to the technology space, and then classroom HVAC improvements at Princeton High School. All of these projects, the growth projects, to enable us, the school district, to build just right, looking ahead for the next 5 to 7 years. Difficult to project much beyond that. So Princeton High School, and again, some of you have seen these projects. This is the basement. Numia Gallery is down there now. The district's IT department is in this space. And so the plan here is just, if I can do this, I'm really not good with these pointers. So let's see here. I'm really not good. No. Anyway, forget. So the yellow wraparound U shape is a corridor that's also going to serve as some gallery space, an open gallery space, kind of wrapping around there. In the green there, those are going to be 2 classrooms that can be opened up and create flexible space for gatherings and also additional gallery space. And then in blue, there's 1, 2, 3 full-size general education classrooms. And then we have a small group room adjacent to the one classroom. So this space is going to greatly increase the flexibility at the high school for some much needed programs. So what will happen to the district's IT department? That will go to the middle school, and we'll talk about that. And some of you may have seen that already. Okay. So that's the high school renovation project. The middle school, some of you may remember, here's a site plan. I want to say that some of the site aspects of all of the projects, including the middle school, Little Brook Community Park, are still being worked on. There's a separate effort going on to study outdoor space and playground space. And so there's going to be some additional refinements of all of the site plans as we go along. But at the middle school, 2 additions, one on top of your screen in blue there, that is going to become a multi-purpose space and cafeteria expansion with a separate night entrance and some other support functions. And then at the bottom, you'll see along Walnut, that's the 2-story classroom addition, which I'm going to tell you more about, okay? So at the top of the screen, we blow that up a little bit. You're going to see, if you point to the cafeteria map, please, you're going to see an expansion of the cafeteria. And the things that are cross-hatched are all of the new construction, okay? So we're going to expand the cafeteria. We're going to create a wraparound corridor in yellow circulation, okay? We're going to create a multi-purpose space. That's in the aqua green color there. To the right of that, there's a variety of support spaces, including toilet rooms, okay? We're going to do some renovations as well in the music area. We're going to take the smaller compartmentalized spaces and make them into larger, more flexible music rooms to fit more kids at one time. Okay. And so that's what we're doing in the back of the building, along with some associated site work. Along the front of the building, this is a 2-story addition. So a couple of things going on here. Again, in the crosshatched area to your left, we're going to make a wraparound addition that's going to connect the pod to the new main entrance, to the existing main entrance, and create a new main entrance, along with an expansion of the office, a security vestibule, a nice lobby space. And then inside the addition, we're going to put classrooms, 2 science labs, and a variety of flexible instructional spaces, small group rooms / classrooms. So we can put smaller groups of kids in those rooms or large full-size classrooms in those rooms as well. In the 2 stories, and you can see to the right there, the pink on top there, those are the 2 science labs with a prep room in between, some additional classrooms, and you can see a connection to the existing pod, C, I think. That will complete the connection on the 2nd floor. So there's going to be a lot of improvements. There's a connecting walkway between the I think that's E wing and C, and that was an area of heavy traffic. We wanted to cover that. We can't enclose it completely, but we can make that connection. And then in the brown, in the renovated area of the C on the 1st floor, that's where we're putting our district IT department. It will have its own independent entrance. Okay, so there's quite a bit going on there at the middle school, as you can see. We're going to make 2 covered walkways that are going to provide access to the new entrance to the middle school, as well as an entry plaza, okay, to make something, that kind of pops out a little bit more. All right. So that's the middle school project in kind of a big nutshell. So moving on next to Community Park. Here again, site plan, and we've identified some elements here on the site plan you can see, but again, same note applies here as I said earlier regarding refinement of that plan. 2 additions going on here at Community Park. And so onto the end of the existing 2-story wing, we're going to put a 2-story expansion with classrooms. And attached to the existing gymnasium area, okay, we're going to do a 1-story addition. We're going to do a new gymnasium there, and I'm going to show you what that's going to look like on the plan that's to follow. Okay. So here at Community Park, we have a 2-story addition on the left, 6 classrooms there on 2 floors. We're going to making a connection directly to the existing 2-story wing of the building. And then to the right of the plan there, again, the crosshatched area, the large blue-green space, that's your new multi-purpose room, new gymnasium with a stage. It's a multi-purpose room / gymnasium / stage. Okay, so for an elementary school, we are also going to have some support spaces there. Important in this plan on the bottom is, again, in the yellow, that is a connecting corridor. That corridor will connect the far end, the right side of the building, all the way across to the 2-story wing to create a wraparound circulation pattern in this building. Some renovations are planned as well. One of the big renovations is the cafeteria. Cafeteria will be expanded by removal of the stage, because that stage is going to be over in that new multi-purpose room now. We're going to do some improvements to the kitchen. We're going to relocate the library, okay? And that's the area that's in kind of in lavender there, in part of what is now the existing gym and community park, as well as a small expansion in the new addition of the library as well. And then we're going to provide music space in the red area that is on the top of the renovations area. That is basically the other half of the gym, the top half of the gym. Between that, there's going to be some storage rooms, offices, and things like that to create that acoustical isolation between the library and the music rooms. And then to the bottom left, you'll see that there's going to be an additional classroom and some small group instruction. Small group instruction rooms are very important in schools now because of the level of services that schools provide. And you need to do what we call pull-outs, to take the children from the classes and give them that specialized instruction. So we need more and more of those spaces because there are more and more of those programs now in the school districts. This is not something that was really contemplated when schools were designed way back when. So we've increased that, and you'll see the same is true at Little Brook as well. Okay, so that's the community park project. And then Little Brook. And Little Brook, again, 2 additions on the left side of the screen in blue. That is a new music room. okay, which we'll show you more of. And then on the right side, you're going to see again a wraparound, this theme of wrapping around and connecting things and not having dead ends anymore, but having it so kids can, and staff members can get around the building. Lots of good reasons for that. It improves efficiencies, improves security, improves supervision, improves a lot of things. So let's move on then. Same note about the site work here. And so here, left side, I'll start there in the red. That's the new music addition with a small, again, connecting corridor in yellow. And then to the right of that, you're going to see those 6 new classrooms. And again, you're going to see the circulation pattern with the corridor, which will connect the 2 ends of the building. And then in orange, those are all support spaces, toilet rooms, and things like that. Below that, we're going to do some reconfigurations of the existing child study team and kind of carved up offices. We're going to straighten those out adjacent to the existing library. We'll leave the existing library at Little Brook as is. And then we're going to add 2 small group rooms. Again, we need those small group rooms in 2 very large, oversized kindergarten rooms in the bottom right corner, which will make those resulting rooms the same size as the rooms you have now. Okay? So that's the Little Brook plan. So what about project costs? So right now we're still in a range until we refine the estimates. We are in a range total project costs between $85 million and $89.5 million. I'm hoping it's closer to the $85 million number. And you can see the range of costs associated with each of those individual projects in the chart there. I won't read them to you, but you can see that one of the projects added to the chart is the high school HVAC project, which is going to make the HVAC improvements, replace obsolete equipment at the high school. It's going to improve environmental conditions for the kids. So the costs are preliminary. They're estimated on what we know today, but we're finding out more and more every single day. Costs are subject to refinement as we complete the process of submission to the Department of Education. Okay, and we'll give more details about the costs after we complete those DOE estimates. So how much is it going to cost? So here's the estimated tax impact. I don't want to say that this was prepared by the district's financial consultant, Phoenix Advisors. So the term of the bond, we're assuming an $85 million issue, term of 25 years, interest rate around 3.5%. Interest rates are subject to market variations. Average home assessed value in Princeton, $848,000, thereabouts. The annual tax impact for that home valued at $848,000 will be $551.70. And again, these numbers might vary a little bit, okay? The tax impact for every $100,000 of assessed value of your home, $65.06, okay? So if you look at your tax bill, you see your assessed value. It's not an exact calculation, but it's close, all right? So again, costs are subject to refinement. The source for the average home assessed value is from the New Jersey Department of Taxation. They keep a roll of house values throughout the state. It's subject, again, to cost refinements, changes in assessed values, interest rate fluctuations, and so forth. Okay? So what's the anticipated project schedule? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this other than to say that, our critical time right now to get submitted to the Department of Education. We want to be ready and complete with that process by June. We're planning to conduct a referendum in December of 2024 or January 2025. We are allowed to do referendums 5 times a year. The state mandates what those dates are. We really don't have a choice. We have to pick one of them. So we are aiming for December or January. Okay. Along with that, there's some work to do as far as completion of applications, actually a fair amount of work to do with that. And we wait for our state approvals, which we're hoping to have by August or September. We have to have those notifications and approvals from the state in time to prepare the referendum questions and get those to the clerk of elections. Okay. So that that vote can be scheduled. Okay, and then I think we have one more slide talking about overall. Here's an overall schedule, and there again you can see that referendum date. Everything just kind of works from there. There will be a period of time for design, regulatory approvals, and so forth. We have a construction period for new construction, and then right now we're looking at potentially 2 phases of renovations, and those renovations will be contingent on completion of some of the new construction, so we can use that space for swing space. With construction, especially nowadays, unforeseen conditions, long lead times for materials, agency review times, agency requirements have gotten more stringent, less people to do the work. So we do see lead time issues with agency reviews sometimes and other factors known and unknown at this time. Okay, so I have to always throw that in. Anyway, that's it, I think. Yes. Thank you. Questions?
George, thank you so much.
Sure.
It's delightful to have you working with us.
Oh, thank
and I appreciate all the information that you provided. And just going back on the tax impact, I did the math like in my head, but if it goes to, if the referendum, depending on what gets approved by the Department of Education, if it goes to 90 million, that would mean the referendum, the range is between $500 and $51 for the average assessed home, up to $800 roughly and $50. Is that math all right? About?
I'll have to ask Phoenix. Yeah.
$5 million wouldn't add that
Yeah,
much.
I don't think it's that
It's definitely subject. I mean, interest rates just spiked again recently.
Yeah.
We don't, it seems to
So
be.
is it $80? I'm doing the math wrong.
And it depends how long we finance the bonds over with.
65 per 100, right?
Well,
And Matt, do
But
those
that's
right.
based on those assumptions that
And
we
d-
had.
We'd
Do
have to
those
get that new
assumptions-
multiplier, that $56. We'd have to get a new number for that.
Oh,
Right.
Phoenix,
But do
in
those
order
ass-
to do that, yeah.
Do those assumptions include aid that we might get?
Yes.
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
And that's assuming 12%, which could be a touch high. At the time we were working with 12%. We may be closer to 10. We're still, so the state, the state does not fund new additions. And, they use very cookie cutter capacity models. So they're not, they're going to say, well, you don't need any more space. You can cram more kids in those classrooms, right?
Yeah,
so.
the state funding formula is not advantageous.
So on the renovations, we'll get 34%, which is prorated 40%. Hopefully, the state could always change that proration. It probably wouldn't go higher.
No. It's not going on.
Yes.
Adam?
Just my own edification. Is there an intense lobbying effort to change the state funding formula, especially for when it comes to building exemptions and all that kind of stuff?
It was close a couple of times. It didn't make it through the legislature.
It still hasn't. Okay.
The most recent effort to raise the $143 a square foot they allow for school construction, which is about 20% of what it really is, was last year, and that failed.
It did fail. Okay. Exemptions can happen in tax levy. Exemptions can happen though, correct?
Well, that formula is set by the legislature.
Yeah. So if we could just stay focused on this referendum in Princeton. So you were saying we think the total state aid will be around 12%,
10 to 12.
10 to 12%. And there's no state aid for new construction. Is that right?
Not in your case, because you don't have enough unhoused students. The formula is based on what's called unhoused students, which are students who don't have space to go into, based on the state's formula, which is based on the size of the gross area of your building divided by an area allowance based upon the grade level of the student. So based on that formula, no.
And they have an expectation that we would have significantly higher class sizes than the community is willing to or should, and that's subjective.
Yeah, well,
right.
It depends a lot on how the buildings are laid out. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into that make it works better for some districts than others.
Okay.
Right.
So just to make sure I'm putting out correct information, it's $551 per the average assessed home if the referendum is at 85 million, and a little more if it ends up at the higher end of the range. It's probably $30.
But I'm concerned that average 800 is going up. You think or not?
What do you mean going up?
Because the houses are selling for more and more.
Well, it depends on what's being.
Okay.
So it's the assessed rates when you get your card. Right now, the average home is selling for 53% more than the assessed value.
Oh, shh.
No, that's from the tax.
Quite
That's public information.
Assessed value will be more stable.
No,
than market.
because that's the average.
Okay.
So it doesn't, yeah.
Yeah, assessed values they're based on the assessments, right? And if you make improvements to your home, they'll change your assessment too. So a lot of these homes that have work going on, their assessments are going to go up. But that's different from market value.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? So go ahead, Brian.
Well, I just wanted to thank George. He's already been thanked, but his incredible care and the way he has listened to the board, to members of the public, to the staff, to the building principals, has really been fantastic. And some architects get wedded to their plans, and it's wonderful that George and his team have shown a significant amount of flexibility and have been willing to adapt their plans as good ideas have been raised, explored, examined, and now put into the plans.
Can I just second? Yeah, very compared to people in the past. You're quite flexible, open-minded, and I think you have a encyclopedic knowledge of what's going on. It's quite impressive.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I would say I'm also delighted how you've been able to, we went from having saying, here are all our various needs, but you gave us a plan that actually meets our needs on so many different levels and in so many ways that are interconnected and efficient. And so I really appreciate that, from fixing the flow at the middle school to figuring out what to do with the technology space where we are maintaining art, in fact, improving our ability to hang and show art. Replacing the Numina Gallery, which is an older space, but bringing it into a way that we can use it for classrooms. But it's just meeting so many of our objectives, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, George. All right, and moving on now, we have the budget hearing with Mr. Bolden.
Mike, have a good night. Thanks for coming tonight.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Great. So I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. There were no changes between the tentatively adopt budget on March 18th and the final budget that's up for adoption tonight at this board meeting. Our mission statement: we promise to prepare all our students to lead lives of joy and purpose as knowledgeable, creative, and compassionate citizens of a global society. The budget calendar in highlighted in yellow right now is the public budget hearing, which is still required to be advertised in 2 newspapers. So amazingly, 2 physical newspapers, but anyway, so that's where we are tonight. It's been a long process with a lot of work from a lot of people in the district. Budget drivers, we talked about last time, meeting students' needs post-pandemic, inflation and scarcity. Once again, I think I just referred to another little spike in interest rates that was unexpected. Transportation costs have gone up significantly. Increasing, obviously improving our pedagogy is a constant focus of the school district, and continuing to maintain and improve our facilities. We'll go over the accomplishments super quick. We've passed 2 referenda, and we're talking about another one. The past 2 we're dealing with maintaining and improving our facilities. The next one would be about increasing capacity for student enrollment that is projected to go up. We've completed reviews of math, DLI, special ed, technology, and continue to plan for increased development in town that I just talked about, improving our pedagogy. We also are utilizing grants available from Princeton University and the state to offer extra supports and tutoring to our students. So some really good things are going on. The taxpayer impact of the budget adoption. We always have the 2 different years. You have a calendar year. The town's on the calendar year. The school taxes pass through the town collector. So the adopted calendar 2024 school tax would be $90.176 million. That covers 2 of our fiscal years. So with the slight increase in assessed valuations, the effective tax rate would be 2.27 versus 2.48, so slightly lower. When you have increasing tax bases, which have been the norm for most of the last 15 to 20 years here, So that helps to deflect or defray some of the increasing costs of education and other services that government provides. This is a little bit more in the details. You can see here what I was talking about. This is the fiscal year. Our fiscal year is June 30. This town has a December 31st calendar fiscal year. Our overall, when we combine debt service and the general fund, the tax levy increase year over year would be 2.07%, which is slightly less than the compounded annual growth rate over the last 7 years of 2.14%. We're looking here now below at the calendar year, which combines two of our fiscal years. The tax increase would be on the average household, which we were just talking about, would be about $237, just under that. This chart here is a nice comparison. It shows our enrollment growth, which slowed down during COVID, and at the bottom shows our operating fund tax levy increases. So 2.17% this year is significantly less than the last 2 years, which is a good thing. This is a combination, once again, showing our combined operating and debt service at 2.07%. Banked tax cap. So there's a tax levy cap in the state of New Jersey with a few exemptions. The most common one here is the healthcare waiver. So in the current budget process, we've had a healthy workforce. So our health insurance is tied to the state. When the state increases theirs, we're allowed to increase ours. So if ours don't align directly with the state, it creates a problem. But when the states went up this year, and we're not going to be using it this year because we don't need it, we put it in the bank, so to speak, and we can tax it later if we need it. So that's a good thing. We are using some expired banked cap, which is what puts us a little bit over that 2%. This 51,000 would be going away this year if we didn't use it. And so with the total banked cap we're using for the years, 146,000, just over that. This is a chart that shows our major budget driver, which is salaries, benefits, and charter school expenses is just about 83%. It only leaves about 17% for the remainder. This smaller pie chart shows that remainder piece, which is out of district tuitions, transportation in gold, energy costs, maintenance and custodial costs, non-salary maintenance and custodial costs, insurance, legal, and professional services. And when we get done there, it leaves under $5 million of the remainder, or just under 5% to spend. So our adopted budget tonight, this is some of the details of our salaries. And we can see that in gray, I've highlighted some of the areas of pressure. Student services, transportation has been a real driver of increased expenses. 2 years of more than 20% growth. A couple years ago, we couldn't find bus drivers, so we had to increase our rates, which were too low, as we've done with a lot of our service sector. So it's been helpful to those people. District benefits has also gone up, although we had a nice year this year with our health insurance increase. So that's a good thing. Our overall revenue is the vast majority of that revenue is from local sources, either our local tax levy, and then most of this tuition is from Cranberry, who sends their high school students here to the district. There's a little bit of tuition from staff who send some of our staff choose to send their students here for tuition. Interest has ticked up a little bit, so there's a little bit of positive with some of the inflation. State aid, we've had some good state aid increases year over year. With the state formula, though, that funds charter schools. So charter schools are public schools. We've I've done a fair amount of work in the last couple months on that. It is interesting. So they index the inflation is sort of passed through to their charter school. So our increase in the charter costs have outpaced our state aid increases. So kind of a wash there. And then we budget for extraordinary aid, which is a grant application, which we do each year based on super high intensive needs of certain special education students. And we have our money from Princeton University, which has been very helpful in these inflationary times. And that's really in a nutshell our revenue. As we can see, our tax levy is it's about 80 something % of our overall budget revenue. Here we're looking at the expenditures, big picture. Clearly, salaries and benefits. The benefit increase here is mostly fund balance. We are forced by the state. State of New Jersey has very tight or conservative rules on fund balance as compared to most of the states in the country. So we go through that when we deal with Moody's, when they do our rating reviews, but we're only allowed to keep 4% in fund balance. And so they force us to budget the remainder each year, but we want to keep our fund balance at closer to the levels where we are right now. So we don't intend on spending that, hopefully, although, inflationary pressures have challenged us there. We can look at some pressures with student services. We can see here year over year, charter school forecasted to increase over 7%. That is and will be trued up to the actual at the end of the year. They take the student counts that we do in October, which is finalized in December. And then at the end of the year in June coming up this year, they do counts at the charter school, and we work with them to verify those counts. They are weighted counts, so they would get more funding for multilingual learners, free and reduced students on free and reduced lunch, or special education students. So those are really the driving forces behind our appropriations in the budget. That opens it up to any questions from the board and then from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. That was a very concise and informative presentation.
I thought you'd like that. I was trying to be concise.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. So I put my book away. But we're good. Can I ask you a question? So I know you touched on it briefly, but we've been reading a lot about cuts in state aid to other districts. And I know that we, I think, received an increase of 4%. Is that right? Or no? Never mind.
We did. We got about 5%, but it
5%?
was slightly more than fully offset by the
Right.
increase to charter school.
That was my next question.
Oh.
That was my next point. Right.
Got it.
Yeah. So whatever that increase was, which was 440, and how much more are we paying? 550. So it's a negative. So
I'd have to give you a raise, Brian.
yeah, double it. Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, I appreciate.
Yeah,
all
there
the-
are a lot of districts with the state funding formula. They have been, slowly going to enacting that
Yeah.
formula, and then certain districts are getting the thought is that they're weighting the wealth factor part. So it's kind of a split formula based on student population and then wealth factor in a community. So there's some communities are having an awful lot of
Yes.
volatility. So.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I appreciate all the time that you put into this budget. And I was reading something that our average tax increase over the past 5 years, is it 5 years or 10 years? 5 years was 1.95%, our tax levy increase. The effective.
That slide, that's from the tentative adoption.
And it was also in something that will be coming up tomorrow in the papers.
Yes.
Yes. So I just wanted
Elizabeth
to
Collier's
say,
been working closely
Yes.
with us on all sorts
Yes.
of press releases
Yep.
once again.
yeah, she is here.
We're
Hi,
thankful.
Elizabeth.
Hi,
Yep.
Elizabeth.
So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you and good job.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Debbie?
All right, it has to be a comment that I always make. Hopefully we're not spending more on parking and we're getting more parking from our friendly town and school supplies. I know they're small dollars, but how many of those little boxes can you have? And it's not you, Matt, it's maybe our principals, our teachers, like we need cut some of that from the budget. So I know some parents have way too many pencils. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right. And now it's time for public comment only on the budget. So if anyone has any comment about the 24-25 budget presentation that Mr. Bolden has spent so much time on, please come to the microphone. Mr. Bolden, no one has any questions because you did such a fantastic job.
And Janine and her.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes,
and Janine.
yes, I just
Sorry,
wanted to-
Janine. We know it was all Janine. But thank you because, you know, we're all here for the kids and this is the most important thing that we have to work with our kids. So thank you for your careful attention to the budget.
I have a point, just a question.
Yeah.
And that is, I assume that these presentations are all available on the website or will be after
Yes,
the meeting?
absolutely.
And that also for the planning, just to mention also
Tomorrow.
on the demographics, we gave the abridged version for tonight, but there's actually a much longer presentation with all the details that's available on the website. So for
Tomorrow.
people who want to, tomorrow,
Not tonight.
for people who want to see, again, we were going through this very quickly. We're talking very quickly, but we've all
I
spent
don't
a
want
lot
to
of time.
I don't want to misrepresent.
But tomorrow,
Tomorrow.
but, or as soon as possible, let's let our people, but
After today.
so there are three
After
different
today.
presentations. But just if people are looking and want to spend some time, because I know for me, it's hard to process all this so quickly.
Yes.
So, and for the board, we've seen this many times, but the
Yes.
public can find it.
And although they call it a science, it's not. So we'll be hearing from people, I'm sure, about
Oh, yes.
projections. But all right. Anyone else? No? All right, Mr. Bolden, are we going to vote on that now or is that part of? Yes, we are.
Yes.
Can I get a motion, please, with Brian for adoption of the final budget 24-25? Second, Mara.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman.
No, maybe I can make a comment later, but why? I voted no.
Hold on a sec. Hold on. Okay, just so I know that you're still. So how it goes is we make a motion, and then there's
Oh,
comment. So,
sorry.
but I didn't call for it. So, please go ahead.
First of all, again, I could be completely wrong what I'm about to say. And I want to say, and I say this from the heart, this board, they all have their superpowers. And I wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. I've been on this board for 3 months and they have, be it cognitive, organizational, communication, research, and depth. I think this is more philosophical disagreement. And I could still, and again, I can't parse my vote. I don't want to abstain. And I'm 40% agree with this budget, 60% don't. Right now, and I could be wrong, I'm philosophically disagreeing. In a nutshell, I have a longer version, but I won't go into it if you want to hear it. I can always, it's a 5-minute one. I'll do the 30-second one. I'm still not clear about demographics, volatile financial pressures. We already have incredible financial resources. We're in the top 5 in our peer group. So I'm afraid that rising costs, in a nutshell, will cut into the operating budget, cause deficits, and cause us to cut teachers and staff. At the same time, this doesn't really get mentioned, and maybe this is the way reality is, but rising taxes are driving out people, especially people on fixed incomes, poor people, often or minorities. I know this for a fact. I know I have friends, and that hurts the diversity we want. But at the same time, this is philosophical too. This is the way we want to go. This is the right thing to do. I can accept that.
Thank you. Mr. Bolden, did you want to call his name again?
Adam Bierman.
We're voting now.
I'm sorry. Sorry with the parliamentary procedure problems. No.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. All right. So as I mentioned before, we're going to have our first public comment on any item. Oh, no, sorry. Agenda items only. So if you have anything to, no, I was moving it. I said, if you were listening at the beginning of the meeting, which I know was a long time ago. I said I don't like the public. The public's been here almost 2 hours. I don't like to wait that long before there's public comment. So you know what? We can just do public comment on any item. So, oh yeah, there's a list. Hold on. Yep. First up is Erica Snyder. And if you could just state your name, the street you live on, and if you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it.
Ooh, 3. I timed it for 2. All right, Daphna. You made a good minute back, right? I'm Erica Snyder, Lawrenceville Road. Tomorrow, there will be a lottery with 10 families competing for 3 available spots in Community Park's Kinder DLI program, which has been capped at 44 students. Even with that cap, CP has the highest kinder enrollment to date for next year, just like it did last year at this time, showing the demand for the program is there and is increasing. And over the summer, were there no cap, we would continue to receive new families who move into the CP catchment area. We also have historically had some of the highest class sizes in the district, and next year will be no different. While dealing with the ramifications of the DLI lottery and how this will limit the access to our school, Community Park has been informed of staffing cuts that don't reflect the long-term proposed plans. The elimination of a full-time art teacher to a part-time art teacher seems very short-sighted as we are looking at the plans to add a very large addition to CP. We were told this change is because we have low enrollment and fewer class sections. However, in most grades, less sections doesn't mean less students in comparison to other schools. To the 10 families in the DLI program lottery tomorrow, please know that we want all of you at Community Park, and we will continue to advocate for you to get the education that you want for your child. To the parents at Littlebrook, Riverside, and Johnson Park, please remember that this board has promised redistricting and that what is impacting Community Park does impact your children as well. You just might not know it applies to you yet. And to the board members in district office, I would ask that moving forward, we hear no more talk about empty classrooms at Community Park, which has been wielded this past year as a weapon, whether intentionally or not, to pit the community against Community Park. You have chosen to have these classrooms sit empty by not allowing for the expansion of the DLI program, even though there is demand, by reducing our specials access, and ensuring that we have the highest class sizes in the district moving forward. So while we don't have as many sections per grade as other schools, that is by your choice. You chose not to provide staffing when it is warranted, and our amazing teachers will still provide exceptional instruction, in many cases for 22 or more kids per class, even if their counterparts at other schools have all of their classrooms used with 14 seats filled. We would too, if you let us, and with much more parity in students per section taught across the district as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kim Marks.
Hi, everybody. So I am Kim Marks, 17 Hullfish, and I wanted to say thank you very much for your words tonight, Dr. Foster, for all of the work that went into the words that you spoke tonight, the work that is going to be coming from them. I know that for some people it doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but it's been a rough go, right? You know, and my family and I moved here and started in January of 2017 in the district. And in October of 2017, I kind of started in this conversation because my son experienced anti-Semitism in the district. I talked to a number of parents that time and I learned that, you know, gosh, things were pretty bad. And there were a lot of conversations, and that same 8th grade class went to DC, came back from the Holocaust Museum and had a major anti-Semitic incident in the school, right? And so things have been getting worse and worse and worse out there and in here. And I know we've been fighting against it. And when you see what's happening on the news and you hear what people are saying, it's just greatly appreciated that you have said the things that you've said, that you've made the commitments that you've made. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Lisa Jacknow.
Thank you. Hi, Lisa Jacknow. Speaking as a private resident from Farand Road, and I don't speak off the cuff as well as Kim, so I wrote mine down. So I want to start by saying I'm very happy and I'm also very sad. Sorry, this is really hard. I think it's okay to have both feelings after listening to Kathy Foster's statement tonight on anti-Semitism. Thank you first to Kathy and the rest of the administration for listening to me and other Jewish parents and students whom we have come to you and said that things at Princeton schools are not okay. I've been reaching out for years. When our middle school dropped state-mandated Holocaust education, and as we started to see anti-Semitism rising, which it solely has since 2021 and intensely since October 7th. Tonight, we're seeing the biggest, most public step being taken at PPS, and for that, I say thank you for recognizing that anti-Semitism is real, it is dangerous, and it is growing. The Anti-Defamation League just released statistics showing there was an average of 1 anti-Semitic incident in the US every hour of every day in 2023. And New Jersey's played a large role in that. Our state is second only to New York with the most reported incidents, and this includes incidents at K through 12 schools, which increased 135% last year. Kathy, thank you for publicly stating tonight that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in our district. Thank you, Kim, too, and other leaders for taking time to meet with me, other parents, and with leaders in the community to learn and better understand. In doing so, it's great that you'll use better resources to guide professional development and curriculum changes. You're expanding your vigilance about incidents and recognizing that HIBs are not the only way to document and respond to Jew hatred. And you've outlined several things to be aware of as forms of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic behavior. And while I'm truly grateful for all that I've mentioned and that some forms of anti-Semitism have been outlined, I'm not clear exactly where this is headed per Debbie's question earlier. Beyond the forms that were mentioned, there's many other ways that anti-Semitism presents. And though PPS has chosen not to include the examples provided in the IHRA definition, I do hope our administrators, teachers, board, and staff will learn and understand those as well so you can really protect our children. I am one of the parents that proposed adoption of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism as a guide to be used in curriculum, professional development, and to truly understand what is and is not anti-Semitic when it comes to occurrences in our schools. And so I'm sad because without a full guiding definition, I fear education will not go deep enough, and the understanding of where their lines should be drawn will be a bit vague. It's sad when we have to limit what is described as anti-Semitic because it means someone else can't say something hateful. It's devastating that Jew hatred is political and where those words end up being used against us. We're seeing this play out dangerously on college campuses and seeping into high school environments around the country. And as a Jewish parent, I'm scared. Our world is a very desperate place when Jew hate is tolerable. I hope and am grateful that, as you have stated, there will be no tolerance here. Whereas other minority groups have had statements or definitions adopted by our board demonstrating their commitment and ensuring others understand and know how to follow it, it appears that Jews are not having that day, and that makes me worried because it is important. So I do hope that policy statements are created and that these details get codified and that goals are set and measured, because Kathy leaves us after the next school year and she won't be here to guide things. And it's taken us years to get here, and we need to keep moving forward. Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment on any agenda item? No. Okay. So moving on, Oliver, thank you for your patience. Student board member report.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Unfortunately, Alex wasn't able to make it, but you'll just have to deal with twice the amount of me. Welcome back. It's been a pretty busy month. So let's recap what happened. First, Princeton High School's research program, I think today, just won Samsung's Solve for Tomorrow contest. The project focuses on creating robots that use artificial intelligence to preserve the indigenous language myth. The research project highlights the interdisciplinary nature of PHS, combining science and engineering with humanities in the service and the betterment of society. Second, Princeton High School just held its annual Day of Dialogue. With numerous cultural groups and affinity groups, it offers a chance for Princeton High School to showcase its diversity to the entire community and build stronger bonds across divides. Finally, March and April also marks the end of the college admissions season. We wanted to take We wanted to take our time to discuss some takeaways with the process and express our gratitude with so many of the teachers, staff, and guidance counselors who've played such a pivotal role in the process. So just starting off, we wanted to be thankful for everyone and all the adults who have spent hours helping seniors, from writing recommendation letters to reviewing essays or helping kids just find their interest in what they want to do. There's no way any of us could have completed the process without any of the adults. With that being said, we wanted to also focus on 2 ways that we could help improve career and college advising. First, through improving the environment around it, and second, helping students explore their interests outside of school. So, first of all, we all understand that being a high schooler, especially in senior year, is extremely stressful and difficult, especially when you're watching other classmates get acceptances into colleges or programs while you may or may not be getting them and may or may be experiencing rejection. We're thankful that so many teachers have given help on choosing and selecting colleges and making a college list. But as a whole, a lot of the culture surrounding college admissions amongst many of the students in our grade can often feel stressful and toxic. Whether this year it's seeing classmates disparage others, saying that they only deserved or they only got into their schools because of their gender or their family background, or students aggressively releasing the information of other students and comparing themselves to others in public. It's clear that oftentimes the culture is extremely and toxically competitive. One of the things that I think helps explain this is that while our school puts a significant emphasis on the strategy of college and career consulting, we've often ignored the emotional and behavioral side of the process. To be fair, this issue can't be solved with one teacher, one action, or one policy. It's a broader cultural issue that we have to deal with as a district. And I think one way to start is by having teachers and staffers and college counselors and guidance counselors describe the importance and the ways that we should be thinking about responding and feeling the emotions of college and senior year. Separately, Princeton Public Schools is also unique in the dozens of opportunities that it offers. Whether it's Princeton High School's aforementioned cultural diversity, its strong arts programs, which put on Broadway caliber productions, or its science programs, which just won the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition. But as amazing as Princeton Public Schools is, there's also dozens of opportunities outside of school that can play a pivotal role in developing students' interests or their future careers or research interests. And during senior year, a lot of us found out that many students did take advantage of these opportunities, including some of them include internships at Fortune 500 companies, positions as researchers in think tanks, and working in elite summer research programs. And while these opportunities are great for the students who take it, it's also concerning to see that there's not that much information inside Princeton High School about taking in those opportunities. While some of these opportunities do present a high barrier of entry, including pre-college programs that often cost thousands of dollars to attend, many of them are free or even pay students to participate. And so in response, what me and Alex have been doing is working together to create a list of student opportunities outside of school that are pretty much all free, or if they have a cost, offer significant financial aid. And so at the end of all of this, and through the college admissions process, we hope that we can build a better and healthier culture surrounding college admissions that teaches kids to take the process carefully, deliberately, and to take into account their emotions, but also be aware of the way they treat others and the way they talk about other people. Because while college admissions is definitely stressful, we have to be extremely concerned of the way we carry ourselves in our school.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Oliver. Appreciate your careful thought about the process. I would also add that, juniors are also affected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having one myself. It's been a rough year. But thank you, Oliver. Okay. Moving on now. Hold on one second. We are moving on now to K1 policies first reading, K2 policies second reading, L1 harassment, intimidation, bullying, and then we're going on to M1, which is the board committee highlights. Equity committee is up first, and Debbie Braunfeld is going to tell us all about the meeting. We don't read them. How many years have you been on the board?
The equity. Okay. Sorry. The Equity Committee met on Monday, April 8th on Zoom. In preparation, we read the equity audit from 2018. We discussed what was improved at PPS since the audit and what we still need to work on. We discussed that each committee should have equity goals for the 24-25 school year to help spread the work of equity. We then broke out into two groups to discuss actionable goals for the NJSLA, the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment in English and math. And some work is being done. Examples are tiered support during instructional time, AAIS being taught in our elementary schools. At the middle school, we have 90 minutes learning of ELA and math, and Reading Plus and Math After School. We're also offering high-impact tutoring and math lab. At PHS, we now have Saturday Academy, which is helping students. Our next meeting will be on Monday, June 10th at 6 p.m. in person in this room, Valley Road. Please join us.
Thank you, Debbie. Next up is long-term planning, which I'm sure will be brief because we spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I'll just say long-term planning met on April 18th and reviewed what was discussed this evening, and we meet again on May 16th and continue the ever ongoing process of long-term planning.
Yeah, and I do, in all seriousness, want to thank you, Brian, Susan, Mara, and Debbie. It's only April. The committee's changed. And I want to thank you for all the time and effort and thought you've put in to the plan that we'll be voting on to submit to the Department of Education tonight. So thank you. Community owes you a debt of gratitude. Seriously, a debt of gratitude.
It's been a team process, so we're grateful, and we're grateful for the administration, and we've grown and we learned, and we've been working on this now for years, and we're in a very good place. So we're happy to bring that recommendation.
All right, thank you. Next up is operations with Susan Cantor, who is also going to keep it brief because we had the budget presentation. So what else is going on?
Okay, I'm going to read you a long list of things that are going on. We picked me to do this rather than Brian, so thank you. Sure. So we met April 24th at 8 a.m. The committee received updates on the 2022 referendum, which includes roof projects on 4 schools and elementary HVAC work, which will be done this summer. We then received updates on the 2023 referendum, which includes door hardware, security vestibules, PHS cafeteria, pool lighting, IT updates, security cameras, the PHS track, and potential playground work, all of which the district is overseeing at one time. It's truly an impressive effort they are making, and we thank them. And we received some updates on smaller non-referendum projects that the district has either approved or is considering. We discussed sustainability, as we always do, and Jenny Ludmer of Sustainable Princeton provided updates on energy efficiency campaigns in our schools and our continuing efforts as we explore electric buses for the future and waste audit. We then discussed several grants and budgeting issues that will appear on today's agenda for voting, and we adjourned into closed session to discuss the budget, which was just approved. Our next meeting is May 9th at 8 a.m., and I do truly want to thank Matt, Dave, Janine, like the whole team, because the amount of projects they are overseeing is truly an impressive effort. And I think the whole committee really thanks them. And if you're interested in the more details, come to our next meeting.
And those
May
meetings,
8th, I'm sorry.
May 8th?
May 8th. I'm
May
sorry.
8th. And those meetings go on for a while, right?
Each of these projects is discussed.
hours?
I
Yeah.
just listed them, but each of them we get a true
So-
update. Yeah.
So anyone who wants more information will get it there. Thank you. Moving on now to personnel with Mara Franceschi.
The Personnel Committee met at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, April 18th. We discussed the new roles and job descriptions for the Chief Technology Officer, Supervisor of Early Childhood, and the Supervisor of MTSS and Special Projects, all of which you've seen tonight. We also discussed expanding the Science Supervisor role to comprise all of K through 12 and summer counselor hours at the high school, middle school, allowing for at least one counselor to be available Monday through Thursday all summer. As has been noted by our superintendent and kind of through the budget, we've also continued discussions on streamlining and maximizing our resources through staff attrition while always ensuring we're good stewards of the community. I think it's really important for the community to understand that schools are constrained from increasing their budgets by more than 2%, with very few exceptions. In times of increasing inflation and increasing enrollment, it's even more important to comb through the budget to find any possible savings. And as personnel expenses comprise over 70% of the budget, approaching 80, carefully maximizing our resources in this area is extremely important. Our overarching goal is always to keep our students at the forefront and to maintain the highest standard of instruction for our children and to keep all of our beloved teachers. So each year we carefully consider if retiring or departing personnel need to be replaced, if positions can be combined, and if we're fully utilizing all of our personnel. And our current administration is doing the very difficult and very painstaking work of a deep dive into each role and position within our district. And we applaud their work and effort, as it has been both difficult and time consuming, but it is incredibly necessary, as each year we're required to fill a gap, to find savings in our budget to stay within our cap. And as Mr. Bierman pointed out, it's our goal to keep our beloved teachers. And to do that, we have to really, really, really control our budget. So each year we do come through. And to highlight the atmosphere that we're currently working in this state, just right before this meeting, I was checking my emails, and there's a headline, East Brunswick schools, they're cutting 50 jobs amid an $8 million budget shortfall. That headline is occurring throughout the state, through a number of our neighbors, everybody. It's something that it's not a future worry that we have. It's something we worry about like in near term. It's something we strive every single budget cycle. How are we keeping our services, not affecting the services that we're offering our children, and God forbid, keeping our staff. The end product may result in difficult decisions and a change in certain aspects of the culture we've become accustomed to, but it represents very necessary and important change that allow us to continue the best and broadest educational experiences possible for our children. Our intention is always to maintain the same quality and number of minutes of instruction in the classroom. And that's what we do in personnel. So our next meeting it's regrettably closed, but if you come to operation, you'll hear all about the budget. Our next meeting is Thursday, May 9th at 8:30.
Thank you, Mara. And then last but certainly not least, student achievement. I'm sorry. So I'm trying to get out by 10. Policy with Beth Barron.
Policy met on April 17th, and we reviewed the policies that are up for first and second read this evening. And our next meeting is on May 8th, and the public is welcome to join us. We meet about, I think, 3:45.
And you meet in person, right?
We meet by Zoom at 3:45 on May 8th. Yeah.
Zoom, yeah, okay.
And you can come listen to the very, complex and dry policy discussions, but we work through everything. So
thank you, Beth.
Great.
Okay, go ahead.
Student achievement. Very quickly, we met Friday, April 12th at 11 a.m. Dr. Foster gave us an update on the work that she spoke about tonight regarding the anti-Semitism statement. We heard from our administrators about summer assignments. So students might be very excited or not to hear that we have optional elementary summer assignments once again in English and in math, and those will be posted on our website in about a month, I believe. Is that? Oh, tomorrow.
Probably tomorrow,
Okay.
and then we'll do an e-blast on Thursday.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So
we can't
can
wait.
Get a start on that, and then also our middle and high school summer reading as well. And I appreciate the committee's conversation about that and all the work of our administrators. We have an overnight field trip to Japan on our agenda this evening. We spoke about that in student achievement. We had a great presentation about the extended school year, looking for high school student volunteers to work with their program in the summer. So if there are any aspiring teachers out there or other students who'd like to work with students in our programs, there is an opportunity to do that. Then we did meet in closed session. Our next meeting is May 17th at 11 a.m. And please feel free to join us.
On Zoom.
On Zoom.
Yep. All right. Thank you. So now we're going to move on. We have N1 retirements. Stop me if you need anything, and 2 resignations, and 3 appointments, and 4 personnel items, and 5 leave of absence, and 6 substitute student placements, and 7 curriculum instruction, and 8 student services, and 9 job descriptions. And then we move on to curriculum and instruction, the grant application for local recreation improvement grant. Thank you to Mr. Bolden for finding that. And we're going to try to get it again, right? We received it once, so good luck to us. Student day field trip. And then we have a student overnight field trip, which is an action item. And can I get a motion? Debbie,
Yes.
second. Beth?
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yes. Any comment? Go ahead.
I will be abstaining from this one. I'm having an issue with, I know this trip needs a nurse, and I also know our school district needs a nurse. And right now, we had to increase, I think we're paying over $200 to get sub nurses. And so I want to make sure we come up with a policy where we're covered. The 50 kids going on the trip, I think it's great. And obviously they need the nurse, but there's, over 3,000 that are still here that also need a nurse. So I'm abstaining because I need to just make this statement for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone
Steph?
else? No?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. go
You
ahead.
were right.
What was I right? I was right?
You were asking for a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Daphne Kendall,
Speechless. Yes.
Betsy Bagwell,
Yes.
Beth Baron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Oh, yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Abstain.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Moving on, P1, Student Services. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot O for Facilities Waiver Submission. And moving on, P1, Professional Consulting Services 23-24. P2, Educational Placement of Pupils 23-24 revised. Moving on now to the Business, Finance, Plant, and Operations. O1, Financial Reports. O2.
That's an action.
Is that an action item? Okay. Is that because of me?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I checked. I didn't see anything, but I appreciate that. Can I get a motion, please? Mara, second. Beth. Oh, sorry, Rob. Next time.
Daphne Kendall,
Abstain. Thank you.
Betsy Bagwell,
Yes.
Beth Baron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Q2, Fire and Evacuation Drills. Q3, Project Submission to NJDOE for review and approval. Q4, Cooperative Purchasing Membership, Somerset County. Q5, bid authorization, the PHS Trainers Room renovation. P6, acceptance of donation. So we would like to thank the Littlebrook PTO for their donation of playground equipment, which is a dinosaur. I think the cost was $35,000, and that will be installed relatively soon, right?
Yeah, the foundation was installed over spring break, and then hopefully early summer.
I hope they invite us to climb it.
Yes, you're welcome to.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're grateful to the Littlebrook PTO and all the PTOs that are contributing to our children's education. Next up is acceptance of donation from PEF for the Riverside Kindergarten. And we're grateful to PEF and also to the Riverside PTO for making that application. Then we have the registration travel agenda. And then moving on to our second or third tonight and last public comment. If there's anyone here who would like to speak about anything on their mind? No. Okay. We wore you out. Sorry. So moving on now to S1, the consent vote. Can I get a motion, please? Mara, second. Rob. Mr. Bolden.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Bagwell,
Yes.
Beth Baron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. And then just coming up next week, we have a meeting here. Are we starting at 6 o'clock, the public portion? Yes. Public portion, and that is our annual personnel staff appointments. Thank you. So that'll be 6 o'clock. And then our May meeting is May 21st. Thank you all for attending. Thank you to our administration. It was a jam-packed, but really to all of you. We know you all put a lot of time and effort and thought into the meeting, and we appreciate it. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn? Brian, second. Mara. All in favor? Good night. Thank you.